believe it. We have a wonderful speaker with us tonight. I'm so thrilled that she's agreed to do this. What I want to say to you, first of all, is thank you so much for bringing your light to the Barefoot Sanctuary. You know, there's so much going on in the media at the moment that it's so easy to tune into the doom and the gloom, and every single person that comes into this room just is focusing on the light and bringing hopefulness to our lives. And so really thank you very much for making the effort to come along tonight. I met Fiona when I was ticking something off my bucket list. Following the events that changed my life in 2010, there was a new level of courage inside of me that wasn't there before. And I announced that I wanted to join a choir. And I heard about this choir that was doing Handel's Messiah. Now, I cannot read music and wasn't sure if I could sing. I'd mimed a little bit in choir because I was convinced I was out of tune one time. So, but I go along and I joined this East Lothian operatic, and we performed monthly to Handel's Messiah, even though I still could not read music. And the pianist in that whole experience was Fiona Cox. And the rehearsals, I cannot tell you, the rehearsals for that were terrifying. The conductor would bang and shout and everyone would shake, and all the while sitting there playing the piano was this calm woman with long flowing blonde hair, and I was so intrigued by her. So over the next few years I would see and bump into Fiona at different times, and she just again was always this incredibly calm, serene person walking around. We got to know each other a little bit better over the last 6 months, and Fiona came to one of my workshops, and then it transpired that there was so much more going on than the piano teacher that I had. I think actually I said to Fiona, I have you in my phone as Fiona Piano Cox. But this piano teacher has been doing holistic therapies for years. She has worked with some of the most leading energy workers in the UK. She's been on Brandon Bay's course. Her whole life is dedicated to finding that harmony and health within inside of herself, and it has changed her life, tuning in now and using the same connection to her music as it has now into the rest of her life. And it is with great pleasure that I introduce the wonderful Fiona Cox.
Thanks, Tiffany. She just said that I'm always serene and calm. I don't feel serene and calm right now because I'm completely out of my comfort zone. Because yes, I'm quite happy to play the piano in front of hundreds of people. I'm not looking at them though, I'm looking at the piano and my music, and I'm really happy to work with clients on a one-to-one basis, and I've been doing that for years. But so it's a really new experience for me to be standing here and talking to people, and especially being filmed at the same time. And for those of you who saw the promo little video on Facebook Live, you know, I looked at it back and I thought, oh, I was blinking and smiling, and I thought, that is awful. Anyway, it's just one of those. I've been tapping around that issue of not enjoying hearing myself speaking, and you sometimes don't know what you look like, and I was really nervous for that too. Anyway, here I am, and I must say thank you, Bernie, for kind of giving me the opportunity to kind of, I suppose, get over a fear as well, because as you said, you know me as a pianist, as most people here do locally. But a lot of people know me as well as a therapist, and it's a part of my life I've kept quite sort of secret, in a way. But it's actually, I was just reflecting on this, it's actually the thing that I love doing more than anything, because it takes me to this place of connection, and that's the most important thing for me, is to experience connection. And yes, I'm called Harmony and Health. That's the name of my business. That's the name of my website. and harmony, as I said on the little Facebook film, it's, you know, there's always been harmony in my life, in music. There's, you know, pleasing chords and harmonies together, you know, you have this pleasing sound. I've always wanted to feel this harmony, and music has helped me to get to that place. Anyway, I mean, I've been playing music since I was about 6 years old, and I only realised kind of later on, once I got into all the healing stuff, that my music actually, from a very young age, always connected me to this space. It's a real no-mind space, and it's where I experience something, this higher part of myself. And so throughout my life, and I've had some real ups and downs, music has been a saviour in a way. And it's to do with the connection that comes with it. And so I've always in my life been kind of striving to do things that bring this connection. So I think maybe what I should do is just fill you in a little bit about my journey. So yeah, I started playing music when I was very young. And also when I was very young, I used to have this sense of light around other people. It was very strong, and I remember talking to somebody at school once about it, and they went, "What?" And so I then felt a bit self-conscious and kind of, in a way, I think, closed down that part of myself. But again, my music was always there. I loved playing with other people. I kind of was put in for loads of competitions, and I actually loved performing. I wasn't really particularly very competitive. I think my parents were possibly more competitive for me. But I did actually just love the whole thing of performing and playing with other people. And I had a wonderful, wonderful piano teacher who was actually a very spiritual lady. And an experience that really, really stands out for me is when she was actually ill and asked me to teach some of her younger pupils. And so I went to do this, and I just passed my driving test, not very long before that. Borrowed my dad's car and went to teach these little kids. And on the way back, I had a really bad car accident. And in those days, there used to be this sort of quite dangerous situation of minor crossroads where they didn't have any signs saying give way or stop to one road. Anyway, I was going quite slowly across this crossroad, and suddenly this car just came really fast and smashed into the side of the car. And it was one of these cars with a really high gear stick, you know. And I just remember everything. The first thing that was going through my head was my dad's car. Oh, he's going to be so angry. There was also this strange thing that I bought some cakes to take home, and there were cakes going everywhere. But anyway, basically, I remember time slowing right down, and there was this sense of this presence, almost like wrapping me in something and lifting me, and I ended up sitting on the passenger seat, totally unscathed. And I know that what happened is that there was some presence that literally somehow energetically carried me into the passenger seat. And I think I had 2 scratches on me or something, and the car was a complete write-off. I mean, the driver's side door was smashed right into the gear stick, and I was sitting bolt upright in the passenger seat. So I got out of the car, and somebody helped me out. The door wouldn't open, actually. And I ended up sitting on this wall, and I looked at the car, and then I started shaking and thinking, God, you know, what? But there was this real sense of, I'm meant to be here. I really am. And it was like this, this very strong, it was like a kind of angelic presence that really kind of came in. And that really stayed with me. And anyway, so then that was kind of reminding me of this connection that I used to feel when I was a very small child. And then anyway, I went to the Royal Academy of Music, and didn't really love it, to be honest. It was very competitive, very high-powered, and I wasn't really competitive. Met some great people, not really trying to name drop, but Annie Lennox was there. She had the same flute teacher as me, and she really didn't like it either. We used to sit there, in the common room, and she'd just say, I can't stand this place. And anyway, I'd fallen in love with this guy called Dave, and I just want to sing in a band. And she had this gorgeous long red hair and this very Scottish accent. Anyway, she left. And a year later, she was in Eurythmics, and wow, But anyway, I went through the whole Royal Academy experience, and it was very competitive, and I didn't. I was a bit disillusioned really with the whole experience. But I carried on playing, and another famous person who was there at the same time was Simon Rattle. Look at him now. He's like one of the biggest conductors, went off to conduct Burning Phil. But anyway, then there was me. But anyway, I basically got involved with a cellist there, got married, moved up to the Midlands, and ended up playing the piano actually as an orchestral pianist in the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra. And also playing chamber music with different string principals, and I loved that. But then I kind of really then entered into quite a dark period of my life, because the person I married became a sort of alcoholic, and then got quite violent with it as well. So I ended up being in this situation. I had 2 children. Beautiful children, and when I had my second child, I just thought, what? I got to this stage where everything had just got really, it was bad. It was really bad. And I kind of wondered how I'd got to that place. I lost all self-esteem, and I had my children. That was my saviour, really. The children. Anyway, I'm not going to go into too much detail about what happened there, but then I had another moment where I just remember thinking, I've got to get out of this. I've really got to get out of this. And there was this sense of being trapped, and I didn't know how to get out of it. There was when somebody's drinking that much and then they turn into something quite nasty or violent, it's actually very scary, and so you really need courage to say, I'm going to go. I didn't have any family nearby. There were friends, and I felt this shame. I didn't even tell a lot of my friends what was going on, because I felt so ashamed that I was in this situation. I was kind of quite a strong woman at one time, and I kind of just... Anyway, basically what happened is I was feeding my youngest child, who was actually only a few months old, and again I had this experience of this incredible connection. It was like this same kind of presence that happened in the car crash, just surrounded me and my baby. And there was just this very strong knowing of this voice that just said, go, leave, and you'll be okay. And so the next morning, that's exactly what I did. I was sort of very frightened about that, but my husband was very hungover, and I somehow managed to get him to go to work. He was still managing to hold down a job as a cellist in the orchestra. And by this time, because I had small children, I wasn't working so much. I was teaching a little bit at home. So he went off, and I left. And yeah, I mean, what followed was pretty horrific. I mean, he smashed everything up that I owned. My piano, my flute, all my music was ripped up. I had nothing left, except for my children. But in a way, you know, it was almost like I just got to the very, very bottom of something, and it was just, I could only go up. And so I just made a decision to move somewhere completely different. And so I left all that musical life there and moved up to Scotland. My family are actually all, I don't sound Scottish at all, but my family are all from around Dundee. So I had a few friends and relatives around, and I thought, you know, I'm going to start a completely new life with my children, which is what I did. I mean, it took a little bit of, you know, it didn't just happen like that. But anyway, so I moved up to Scotland, and I then somehow, you know, this wonderful synchronicity, I met somebody who was involved in the Rudolf Steiner School, and they needed a pianist, and they wanted someone to teach the flute, and I went to see this woman who was doing the eurythmy classes there, which is a kind of movement thing that they do there, and basically she really wanted me to go and play the piano, she really wanted me to teach the flute, and I said, well, I've got two quite young children. Well, that's fine, they can come to the kindergarten. So my first two children were very lucky because their first experience of education was making candles, singing songs, painting pictures, playing outside. I mean, it was all very lovely for them, which is lovely for very young children to just have that experience. Well, it's lovely. I mean, the whole idea for people who don't know is that the Steiner School really, Rudolf Steiner had this idea of educating the whole child, not just this bit. And he started his schools in Germany for factory workers' children. Yes, that's right. And, you know, so that he would give them this creative, nurturing environment to be educated in. And there's a real emphasis, isn't there, on creativity and quality of your work as opposed to just quantity. And it's a very nurturing environment. So it was a lovely bridge for me in my life to have that. It felt like a family. I felt very at home there because there was this very spiritual theme to the whole school. And Steiner was, you know, his esoteric teachings are really amazing, actually. So I got very involved in all that. And so, yeah, that was, again, that was me lighting up to this connected part and thinking, yeah, there's more I want to do than just my music. So I then got married again. I'm whizzing on now. Had another two children. Yeah, and that's another pivotal moment in my life. Is my fourth child. I've got four boys. My fourth child, some of you know him, Joseph. He has learning difficulties and he's on the autistic spectrum. That's the label they've given him anyway. But he's just very special. And, you know, he operates from his heart and he has this real warmth. And, you know, it was actually a shock for me when I realised that my fourth child had learning difficulties. You know, because I had three boys and they were all academic, musical, artistic, good at sport. And Joseph came along and I knew there was something different. You know, when he was a baby, he was very late speaking, he was very late talking, but he also was very forward on other levels. Like he could sense the space in a room. He could tune into somebody and he just really connected with them. And really, it's Joseph who really then kind of somehow, in his own way, kind of, he vibrates on a different level. And somehow for me to really be a good mother for him, I had to do something about it myself as well, just to match his vibration. And So one thing led to another, and I kind of, I was teaching piano in schools and still doing all my music thing, but I kind of noticed a little advert in the paper that jumped out at me one day saying complementary therapies degree course at Napier University. And it was just one of those, yes, have to do that. Went for an interview, and the next thing I'm fitting in a complementary therapies degree course, doing aromatherapy, therapeutic massage, and that was great because, again, my education really lacked any scientific background, and I was doing anatomy and physiology and botany, learning about all the different trees and plants, and then also we did all the chemistry to do with like the chemical components in essential oils, and I loved it. And I'd always decided that I was rubbish at science, I just don't do that. But it was just that I never ever had the opportunity to do it. So that was the beginning of me really getting into complementary therapies and doing any kind of healing work. And as any of you know who are involved in that kind of thing, once you start doing massage and you're working with your hands, as I was massaging people, I could feel things in people's bodies. Like I could sense blockages and what was going on. And this really fascinated me. And so one thing led to another really. I then did all my Reiki training, and then I decided to do Brandon Bay's Journey Practitioner Program. That was a real stroke of luck. I mean, I say a stroke of luck, it sounds awful. An uncle of mine died. He was very old though, and he left me a little bit of money. It wasn't loads of money, and I used it to do Brandon Bay's Journey Practitioner training. And that was pivotal as well, because it was all about really deeply looking at your own issues. Is everybody familiar with Brandon Mays? Well, she's a wonderful woman. She had, her story is she had this tumour, and she was working in the health business. What's that guy? Tony Robbins? Yeah, the giant within. He wrote this book. He's big, but she was working with him. And anyway, she developed this tumour. And of course she was feeling really bad about it. She was in the health business. She was supposed to be really healthy. Anyway, it was massive. And doctors just said, we need to operate pretty quickly. And she was very against being operated on. So she said, give me a few weeks. I'm going to try and deal with this myself. So she did all kinds of things. But really the thing that really helped, she went to this person for this massage where they were kind of encouraging her to bring up any memories that were going on in her body, and she accessed this memory of when she was younger, and I won't go into the exact memory, but it was really powerful. And as she kept tuning into this memory and talking about it, and then she opened up about it, and she could feel this tumour like changing. So to cut a very long story short, her tumour completely disappeared. And so she then started doing what's called the journey, and it all came out of this part of her life where she had this tumour and discovered this way of kind of journeying into her cells. The idea being that your cells carry memories, and even though your cells replicate at quite a fast rate, apparently the memories of the cells replicate too. So she was, her work is all about eradicating traumatic memories, traumatic events that get stuck, and going to a place where you eventually forgive whoever it is or whatever. So I did her training, and that was really great, and it shifted a lot of stuff. And I think that's the thing with any kind of healing or trying to achieve any kind of harmony in our lives. It's about really revealing who we really are And, you know, I did spend a lot of my life looking for something. And then I realised, really, I suppose, started to really realise during her training that it's inside already. It's just covered up, and we just need to really reveal what's already there. So just gently kind of removing one layer and another layer and another layer, so that you really get to the exposure of who you really are, you know. And all of us are just wonderful, shining diamonds, really, that we covered up. Because we live in the world and we sometimes experience fear, and we need to protect ourselves and we need to feel safe. So yeah, that was the beginning of really going deeply. I also got involved in doing EFT training. Does anyone know about EFT? Yeah, that's fantastic as well. And so I did that, but I think that really the thing that's changed my life most of all is getting involved in meditation. And in 2006, I think it was, I went up to Findhorn and it's the first time I'd been away on my own without my children. It was really, really exciting, because my husband worked away, so I was on my own a lot with the kids. And I thought, I'm going to do this meditation weekend. And it was a meditation weekend. In fact, there's one coming here in February, called Awakening the Third Eye, and it's a meditation workshop. And it's kind of run by the Clear Vision School of Meditation, which is just fantastic. And it was founded by this French guy called Samuel Sagan, who was a doctor. And so he was a doctor, a scientist, and he really wanted to develop a school of spirituality where, you know, he developed this kind of language to map consciousness, so that he could really scientifically kind of map spaces that people were experiencing in their meditation. Anyway, this course I did in Findhorn was just wonderful, and it was just an introductory third eye course, doing little exercises and learning a 30-minute meditation. Findhorn's just such a lovely place, and it was just lovely to be away, just me with myself. And then I just, from there on in, got very committed to like meditating on a regular basis. And who meditates in the room? Yeah? Lots of people. Yeah, I mean, it for me, it's just so, if you really want to know yourself and reveal yourself, that's the way to do it, I feel. You know, and using the third eye, which is obviously there's so many different techniques and different types of meditation, there's no right ones or wrong ones, but the third eye meditation, I feel, is just, for me, just worked really well, because the third eye, sort of between the eyebrows, is an energetic organ, and it's just a portal to our inner consciousness. And certainly from my experience, I've been very surprised about what I've experienced by going into these inner spaces. And also part of the healing I do is working with these meditative states. I do a practice called Inner Space Techniques, where I work with somebody and they go into very deep spaces and access, you know, parts of themselves that they wouldn't normally do in day-to-day life. So yeah, that's kind of how I got to where I got to, and that took much longer than I thought, really. Has anyone got anything they want to say or ask me, or, you know?
Those lights you saw when you were a child, what happened to them?
What happened to them? Yeah, I still see them now, but I think when I was a child, you know, because other people weren't having similar experiences, I think I just closed down that part of me. But I kept getting reminded, you know, of it when I had the car accident. I kind of had this moment of getting out of a bad place, and you know, and when I started meditating again, that's one of the big things that I've experienced in meditation is light. Yeah, and I know everybody meditates in a completely different way. You know, some people meditate by running or walking or being in nature, but I'm one of these people who sits on the floor and really kind of, yeah, I'm an hour a day in the morning person these days. And I also went away to a clear vision property a couple of years ago for a few months and was part of a healing practice group, and that was a fantastic experience as well. Really, we did a lot of astronomy and astrology as well, which is fantastic. Really looking at planetary forces, which I know a lot of people think, oh, astrology, that's a bit like, you know, yes, you get this rubbish in magazines, but really it was quite profound when you, I mean, anybody who works with kids or, you know that when there's a full moon in a school situation, it's much noisier. When it's a new moon, kids are much more introverted, they're much quieter, you know, and it was very interesting really kind of learning about all these different planetary forces. And you know, when it's a sunny day, what does everybody do? They feel so much better because the sun radiates this light, and that's connecting us to this like eternal flame, that connection that we hold above. And you know, the planets all do carry these incredible forces. So yeah, that's really how I've got to where I've got. But yeah, I'm just wondering if we could just do a little bit of group tapping. So let's just do some tapping. Basically, EFT, emotional freedom technique, it's a tapping, it's an energy psychology, and basically the idea is that if we experience traumas, there's a disruption in our energy. And to smooth it out, we tap on the ends of meridians. And I remember the first time I went to an EFT masterclass and I thought, this is bonkers, you know, this looks really crazy, but it really worked. And, you know, I would say try it on anything, on pain, on emotional stuff, on all kinds of stuff. And so how we start off is we start up with this is what's called the karate chop point. So we'll just all do some tapping together. And we do what's called a psychological reversal, because often we want to change something, but we're psychologically reversed to doing it. You know, like somebody wants to kind of lose weight, and then this part of them wants to lose weight, but there's another part of them that doesn't. Because there could be very good reasons for that. So we'll start with a psychological reversal statement. So, even though I often experience fear, and just copy me, okay? So if you just say the same thing after I do. Even though I sometimes experience fear.
Even though I sometimes experience fear.
And that's quite normal.
That's quite normal.
We all experience fear sometimes in our life.
We all experience fear sometimes.
But I love and accept myself anyway.
I love and accept myself anyway.
Even though we experience fear.
Even though we experience fear.
It's quite normal.
It's quite normal.
We're human beings.
We're human beings.
Who wouldn't experience fear?
Who wouldn't experience fear?
And I love and accept myself anyway.
And I love and accept myself anyway.
Even though you experience fear.
Even though I experience fear.
And that fear sometimes stops me from doing things I want to do.
And that fear sometimes stops me from doing things I want to do.
And I love and accept myself anyway.
And I love and accept myself anyway.
Just follow me inside of the eye. This fear.
This fear.
Outside of the eye. This fear.
This fear.
Under the eye. I don't want this fear anymore.
I don't want this fear anymore.
The nose. This fear stops me from being who I really am.
This fear stops me from being who I really am.
The chins. wonder where this fear comes from.
I wonder where this fear comes from.
It's been there a long time.
It's been there a long time.
Maybe I created it when I was a little child.
Maybe I created it when I was a little child.
Maybe there was a good reason.
Maybe there was a good reason.
Maybe that was to keep me safe.
Maybe it was to keep me safe.
Sometimes the world is a dangerous place.
Sometimes the world is a dangerous place.
Especially if you're 5.
Especially if you're 5.
But we sometimes feel fear.
We sometimes feel fear.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
But I'm open to the possibility
I'm open to the possibility
that I can work through my fears.
that I can work through my fears.
And open to who I really am.
And open to who I really am.
Take a deep breath. So is anything coming up for people? I mean, yeah?
Interestingly, I felt completely non-fearful, before we started it. And when I was doing it, I was aware of like a choking feeling in my throat that just came up, like a feeling of panic.
Right.
So it was almost like maybe it was hidden, but
That's
something
exactly what
that's
happens.
there. So it was around my throat. When I got on my throat, I thought, goodness, how there's something in my throat, like I want to cough it up. But I didn't go into the
Okay, so is it still there?
I knew, yeah.
Yeah, so let's keep tapping. We can all borrow benefits so even though I've got this choking feeling in my throat,
Even though
I've got this choking feeling.
and it's not very nice, and that's bringing up fear. I
I
didn't have any fear before, but now I do. This tapping's brought up my fear. I'm supposed to get rid of it. But I love and accept myself anyway. This choking feeling in my throat made me feel panicky. This tapping has made it worse. And to make us feel better. It's made me feel worse. What's going on? What's happening now?
It made me laugh.
Has anyone else got anything going on? By the way, tapping is just a wonderful tool. It seems like a really silly thing, but for children as well, it's just a fantastic thing to do with children. There's a friend of mine who actually is a teacher, and she started in England. She started doing tapping with kids, and the kids actually who were really being actually difficult in class, and doing tapping with them, and it's been incredible. Like, it's completely transformed their behaviour. And
Do you know how it works?
it's just basically these points are the ends of meridians, okay? And just so it's like a physical form of acupuncture. And so there's a disruption in our energy when something happens to us, when we have a trauma, and these things, we're often unaware of that. They get deeply embedded in our subconscious. Certainly work I've done, I've uncovered things that I didn't even know happened to me, didn't even know I was really upset about, and that obviously caused then this freeze response and this disruption to your energy, a bit like a distorted television or something. And so by tapping, it then restores this flow in your energy. And it's incredible. It's one of the tools that I just use all the time, and if you go away tonight and just remember to tap. I mean, even if you forget the tapping points, as with anything else, go online and you'll find them. There's a wonderful guy called Nick Ortner and his sister Jessica, who I met many years ago at a masterclass, and they just made a DVD called Try It on Anything. And he had just found EFT, and cleared all kinds of things, and he said, we've made this DVD, and you know, we want to get it out to the world, tapping. Well, now they have these global events, online tapping summits, and 8 years down the line, it's just incredible what they've brought to the world in terms of tapping. Yeah, you know about it, do you, Bernie? Yeah. And so you know, there's so much stuff you can access online now. They run a tapping summit every year, and they have amazing people doing, you know, working on different topics. You know, pain, abundance, whatever, fear. You know, all kinds of things. So it's great. It's a great tool to use.
Does it matter what you say?
Basically, you want to say, when you're working with an individual, it's different just working in a group like this, because I can't really target each individual, and you know, it's much better when you just work with one person. And basically what you do is you follow what the client, what is coming up for the client, and use their words and tap through that. I mean, you don't need to worry about what you say, but the more precise you can be with what's going on, you know, for example, you know, that's when you get the best results.